It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. Once more, we talk with Loren Stephenson, Ph.D., Duquesne University professor, visiting with us here this morning on Indiana in the Morning. She was at the Trump rally in Butler on Saturday when the terrible tragedy broke out. The shooting, Mr. Trump was wounded, and one gentleman, unfortunately, was killed. Two others are in critical condition. And the fallout from that will continue and will for quite some time. And so we want to visit once more with Loren. And thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story with us. This is enlightening in a number of ways for us. And one of the things we were talking about before the break was the reaction of the crowd to all of the shooting. Mm-hmm. But I want to go back to even before then, when so many people said that they noticed the shooter actually climbing the roof. Mm-hmm. And when the people who were with you saw the snipers refocus and turn and point their rifles in that direction, it amazes me that they were able to react so quickly. Their mm-hmm. training kicks in, obviously, and they do that. But for you and everybody else to notice them as sharply as you did, mm-hmm. they try to make themselves very visible, don't they, on the site?
Absolutely. We knew they were there, and then after it happened, it was as if people came out of nowhere. And I think there were possibly plainclothes officers in the crowd, but they were quick to react. In the video I saw afterwards, after the shooter fired off the first shot, you can see the sniper flinch, and then that's when they went after him. So it was incredibly fast, but we saw the presence, and we were right in front of them when Secret Service is telling us to get down on the ground, stay down on the ground, and we did exactly what they said.
You described to me yesterday the flag behind Mr. Trump in the moments before all of this unfolded. Mm. To you, there was something divine about that.
That was a very powerful moment. When we were in the crowd, we noticed that the wind was taking the flag, and little by little it was getting jumbled up. And the picture that you see now, someone in the crowd had said it looks like an eagle. And I said to a stranger beside me, it looks like an angel. And a little bit after that, before Trump came to speak, the crowd, including myself, chanted, "Fix the flag, because it was getting at that point really jumbled up. But in that moment, and now looking back, I do believe it was some sort of sign. Even though people, Corey was killed, people were injured, I'm grateful that it wasn't worse, because then we found out that there was a van, the white van, that had bombs in there. We were wondering why the bomb squad was there. And then we we found out later that white van, and we have no idea if we walked by it. So that was very scary. Thinking about all of this in hindsight, once more information came out, because we only knew a little bit at that point, since our phones were jammed for a long time. We all didn't get service until we were back on the road, on the highway, coming back here to Indiana. It's just incredibly scary, but I see that as a moment of hope, that angel, that symbol, looking up and seeing that, not knowing what was about to happen.
How impressed were you by the amount of danger that it turns out that you were in, that you were completely unaware of?
It didn't hit me until I woke up on Sunday morning. My nerves, my adrenaline, we were in disbelief. It was surreal. It was scary to see people diving on their loved ones, to see children, the looks of their faces, not understanding. And it's already difficult for us as adults to understand, let alone having children not understanding what was going on either. So it was an incredibly emotional moment, and just in complete disbelief. I really do believe, including myself, the majority of us were in such shock, but it didn't hit me until Sunday morning what danger we were really in, how close we were, because we weren't just there. We were in the middle of everything. Those snipers were right to our left. That happened right over our left shoulder. We were right in front of Secret Service. And again, the people that were lying around us, some people instantly started crying. You could see some people a little bit angry, but everybody was in shock.
This being the world in which we live, of course, everybody has a camera readily. and you shared an amazing video with us. You also shared that with the New York Times, and the photographs from the scene. For people to have that sort of self-awareness, to know that this is a moment that I should capture, and you did that too. Thought process-wise, it amazes me. I don't know how I would react in a situation such as that. Now you know that about yourself.
I don't think anyone can know exactly what they would do until they're in that type of a situation, because you can hypothetically play out all sorts of scenarios on what if happens and what I should do. But until you're in that moment, I give credit to Alex and Travis, because Travis is the one who took the picture. They both noticed the snipers were moving positions. My brother had video. He was actually closer to the fence even than I was. So I give credit to anybody who had their cameras out. And actually, a man right in front of us nearly recorded the entire thing. And right before it happened, some people behind him were getting a little bit irritated because they couldn't see over him. But now I can imagine that man's videos are priceless for what he shot.
Loren Stephenson is with us. Yeah, I even got the Loren part down.
Lauren's fine. That's fine.
Finally, after all of this time, I got that down.
Lauren's good.
The shooting, the wounding of Mr. Trump, everybody piling on top of him. And then when he was finally helped to his feet and started shaking the fist and chanting, "Fight, fight, fight." And the crowd's reaction, shouting "USA, USA," all of the different emotions that were there in that crowd. How did you feel at that moment?
A lot of emotions. In that moment, we were still on the ground. In that moment, we heard, but Secret Service was telling us to stay down because we didn't know if there was another shooter. So when he was chanting, "Fight, fight, fight," we were on the ground. I'm trying to look over to see, because the last time I saw him was when Secret Service, I looked at the snipers. I looked over here to see and again, things were happening at rapid fire. A lot of emotions going on. People that were up front who had more of a seat to what was going on with Trump, they were the ones that had first look of that he was still alive, that he was still okay. At first it was gunshots, then someone said something ricocheted, then I had heard that it was from the security. There were so many little bits of information coming out as we were walking out, because nobody knew the truth. We were just all speculating at that point, and it wasn't until we all talked, we looked at the pictures we had, we looked at videos, the timestamps, and then we saw on the news different angles, and then putting the story together little by little to try to make sense of what happened. It was incredibly emotional in that moment.
Right after 9/11, I was in Nashville to see President Bush. He was there, and I recall that day I had to go through 8 different security stations. And be wanded at each one, go through the metal detectors. A couple of them we were patted down. It was extremely tight security. Going into the situation on Saturday, was it that tight? Was it more so, less so?
We went through metal detectors. When you first walked into the farm show grounds, it was open. They had stands for people to get something to eat. They had waters. People were helping each other because a lot of people had heat exhaustion. One person after another were being taken out on stretchers because it was so hot. There was no reprieve. But when you walked in, a lot of lines, which were expected through security. But once you actually got up to security, we went through metal detectors. They looked through my purse. Now, we looked online, both Secret Security, State Police, Butler Police, and the farm show, to read what the rules were, what we could bring in, what we couldn't bring in. So when we went through the metal detectors, we noticed a bunch of people left umbrellas. You were not allowed to have an umbrella with a metal tip. Certain chair heights. They said things like no e-cigarettes, or, of course, no weapons or mace, things like that. But I felt safe. I felt as if it was at the airport, what you would go through the airport. The only difference was I didn't stand there and have a scanner on my body. But we went through detectors, and a couple people actually looked through my purse. They had multiple officers there. So one looked through it, another one looked through it. They questioned anything. And to my knowledge, I don't believe anybody in the actual fence who went through security had a weapon. I didn't see or hear of anything like that. So I felt it was about the same as you would go into a concert, going through the airport.
Watching the commentators, of course, and it's been wall-to-wall ever since. They've talked about what were the security failings there that day. no drones, nobody on that roof in particular, despite the fact that it had a pretty full clear-on shot at the presidential stage and everything like that. And that's, the experts know what they're doing right there. Were you impressed by any of that beforehand?
I'll say first that I do support our law enforcement, and I would not want to say anything against people who protect us. We all made comments about the back building, about that AGR building, and specifically the fence line behind us because of how many people were lining up. But again, they were clearing people out to begin with. We were surprised that there were only 4 snipers, 2 on each roof, with the thousands of people who were there, that not one person was on that back building. And it wasn't until afterwards that I had heard someone make the comment, why were there no drones? And I thought, well, that's a good point. And that's why I brought up everything about the TFR at the airport, because of the flight restrictions. Legally, you are not allowed to fly over, and the FAA doesn't mess around. So they were very specific about that, but we didn't see any security drones. I don't think I saw one in the sky. We ended up seeing planes shortly after the shooting, but we did not see any drones, and there was no one on the back building.
Yeah, an open air site like that has to be such a security headache for all of those folks. I don't know how logistically they get anything done in those situations, and maybe in the future they'll find better ways to do it, but it's just a tremendously difficult challenge, isn't it? It
is, and this is not a situation for me anyway, to place blame. I can only tell you what I saw with my own eyes and what I have now heard and seen from people who were on that fence line. What they said, what they tried to do. There are videos of people who were screaming at the shooter, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" You can hear them in the background, and then you can hear people trying to alert. But again, it all happened so fast, and I wasn't there. I did not see all of that play out. I can only tell you what was going on right in the middle. But there probably could have been more security behind us, because they did a good job earlier in the day. They were clearing people out. I don't know what happened, but it was not as secure as it was inside. Inside, we felt safe. I felt safe inside, but you make a good point. That was open air. So we, essentially we're all piling on each other, trying to protect each other.
Yeah. In the end, there will be much in terms of recriminations and investigations to figure out exactly what went wrong and what went right. Because
Absolutely.
So much went right in that moment as well.
For sure. And that's why it was so crucial. I even told this to you on Saturday night to the New York Times and people in general. A lot of the news, not just one, but talking about that the shooting happened at 6:15. It happened at 6:11. And when it comes to a crucial investigation like this, minutes, seconds, milliseconds are important to make sure that they are documented correctly. So it was an experience I don't think anybody who was there will ever forget.
Yeah, you can't, and you understand that, and it will probably inform the way that you go about things in the future as well. Even when you're not at a political event such as that, any crowd gathering effect is going to have an impact upon you.
Absolutely. I love going to concerts. Who doesn't love being outdoors in the summer and being able to experience life without the fear that something like a gunshot is going to take you out? So we're going to be thinking about the next time we ever go to a major public event, at least for right now. But it's still hitting us little by little, as I can imagine it's hitting most people. A friend of mine last night, she dove on her daughter. They went out crying. She was crying. Her daughter is 12. Our friend's son, he's 12. It's hard for their young minds, to figure out why this happened, what happened, let alone us for adults.
In the end, do you find it remarkable that more people weren't hurt?
Under the circumstances, absolutely, especially when we found out that there were bombs in that van.
Yeah.
Legitimately, because we did see the bomb squad there. It was so much chaos. It was so much chaos and so much confusion that nothing really made sense until at least 24 hours later, when it was starting to sink in, when we were getting more information. But still, right now, the FBI, the Secret Service, they're all trying to figure it out too. They have that AGR building on lockdown, getting the security footage. Was the shooter there prior? When did he scale that building? Was that the first day he was there? When did he go? How was it not seen? So there's a lot of questions that people have, including this whole investigation. So all I can do is tell you what I saw and the pictures and videos that we have.
And you've done a wonderful job of that this morning with us.
Thank
We
you,
appreciate so much that you were able to come in and to visit with us, that you were so willing and so open for us too. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate you having me. And again, I am a registered independent. I am not a Republican or Democrat. This is just a story that I saw with my own eyes, because I think we're all trying to figure it out, trying to help each other out.
She is Loren Stephenson with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. We're just moments away from the top of the hour. Fox News coming your way then. Of course, you'll hear more on Saturday's events on that Fox newscast. And then Josh in the WCCS newsroom.